Hey guys, welcome back. We are going to be doing a little series on here called Breakup Recovery, because when you are going through a breakup, you're dealing with heartbreak, maybe someone left you, maybe you actually ended the relationship and now you're going through a divorce. There are like multiple layers to having to kind of like heal and overcome some of the things that you've been through and kind of like rebuild your life. So this is going to be a very detailed series on the fundamentals to breakup recovery. I also want to remind you that if you are not a subscriber, make sure you click on that link down below and hit subscribe, hit the notification bell. That way you are notified every time we do upload a new video with a new topic, as well as notifications when we upload a new video regarding this amazing series that we're going to be doing. So let's get right into everything. So I thought I would start this week with kind of the basics. So let's talk about, and this may pertain to you, it may not pertain to you. Some weeks the information you may very well gravitate towards, and some maybe that's not the case for your particular situation. But breakup recovery is a very big general topic, and so we're going to really dive into everything regarding whatever situation that you're possibly going through. So this week we're going to talk about emotional abuse. Not everyone who ends a relationship is faced with the possible reality that maybe they were in a relationship with someone who was emotionally abusive. But for a lot of people, you're really questioning, what was that I just went through? I'm dealing with PTSD, I'm trauma bonded to this person, maybe this person's narcissistic, maybe I'm codependent. And usually when those types of dynamics happen in a relationship, there is going to be some aspects of emotional abuse that are involved. For me, I always think that emotional abuse should be something that we are taught when we are teenagers and we begin to start dating. But unfortunately, there is no healthy relationship 101 class that any of us take, and if we don't have really good models of what a healthy relationship should look like, and if we are not healed and feel good about ourselves within ourselves, then it doesn't even matter what models we have. We are just going to end up getting involved in relationships that are just not good for us. So emotional abuse, much like physical abuse or sexual abuse, is really about control. This person is seeking control over you, and with emotional abuse, it is done in kind of like manipulative, psychological type of ways. There's a lot of mind games that are being played. When we're talking about emotional abuse and we're talking about control, there are a lot of things that a person will do, and this person who behaves in this way sometimes doesn't even realize that they're actually doing some of the things that they're doing. They may not consciously be aware that they are manipulating, that they are testing boundaries, that they are being passive aggressive. They might actually have absolutely no idea. Some people very well may know what they're doing in order to try to control you. Let's do a quick rundown of the list of things that are included in emotional abuse. We're talking about testing boundaries. We're talking about the silent treatment. We're talking about passive aggressive behavior. Verbal abuse, gaslighting, manipulation, isolation, control, which we have mentioned, humiliation, invalidation, threats and intimidation, emotional withholding, constant criticism, blame shifting, and basically interfering with your own independence. What we're talking about here is another form of gaslighting. Verbal abuse is sometimes very obvious. It's the things like yelling and screaming and giving someone insults. Could be a person that's trying to just degrade you, make you feel bad about yourself. This person mocks you and belittles you, is just trying to make you feel like you're just not good enough, and they're just basically trying to chip away at your self-esteem. Verbal abuse is something that sometimes we can really spot, but unfortunately, even when someone is doing any one of those things, whether it's belittling, mocking, degrading you, humiliating you, trying to make you feel bad about yourself, and chipping away at your self-esteem at all, we might know that that is verbal abuse, and we might know that that's under the umbrella of emotional abuse, but we become reactive to it. We might either take it very personally, where we take offense to it and we begin to kind of go within, where we actually start to feel the effects of someone chipping away at our self-esteem. One of the most powerful things that we don't learn is that no one can really chip away at your self-esteem unless you give them power to do so. So no matter what someone throws your way, whatever thing they're trying to say to try to cut you at your knees or hurt you in any way, shape, or form, it can only work if you allow it to work. Now, you are a human being, so are you going to feel hurt or saddened sometimes, especially when someone that you love and trusted is belittling you or yelling or screaming. Of course, we are going to feel something when someone does any one of these things to us. The one thing with all of these aspects of emotional abuse that we will really start to kind of uncover in the weeks to come, as well as in this video, is basically how you respond to these things. I think the first thing that will really be beneficial and helpful to you is just being able to spot when someone is actually doing any one of these things. And right now, if you are clicking on this video because you're either going through a breakup and you're trying to kind of dissect the relationship that you were in and understand this person, maybe even learn some lessons, hopefully, then you're going to start to see that there were certain patterns that this person did when they either didn't get their way or when they were unhappy, or just the things that they tried to throw at you that actually triggered you the most. The next aspect of emotional abuse is gaslighting, and this one is much harder to spot, much harder than verbal abuse, but gaslighting is psychological manipulation. This is where the abuser wants the victim to doubt their own perceptions and reality of what actually happened. So the person might say things like, no, that never happened, or they might just deny altogether that they did something or that something actually happened in the situation that you're talking about. And because you're dealing with someone who believes their own lies, the more they tell you that something didn't happen or that something did happen, you begin to question yourself. Now, questioning yourself and having a little bit of self-doubt is actually something that's very normal, and it's something that is healthy to a certain extent. But there has to be an inner knowing within yourself of what actually happened or what didn't happen, because you do have that inner knowing. It's called intuition. If the abuser starts to deny or distort the reality so much or continuously is doing it, and you begin to have self-doubt, whether you know it or not, you start to not trust yourself. You start to not trust that kind of inner guidance that you do have that's trying to tell you what really did happen, and it's trying to lead you towards your own truth and reality. Whether or not it actually happened in their minds is irrelevant. It's really about what you believe did actually happen or what you know really did happen. If you are a person that does not have a strong sense of self, meaning you are not truly connected to that inner guidance, to that intuition, to that voice, and you do not trust it, you are a person who will be very easily gaslighted. The purpose of gaslighting for the abuser is to try to control your perceptions of what happened or what didn't happen. This allows them to have control over you. It also does something extremely powerful. It forces you, or it allows you to start doubting your own reality so much that you always believe this person over your own self. When you give someone that kind of power in that way, unfortunately, you are being controlled. And when that happens enough times and the person knows that when they just give you a little bit of self-doubt that you just go down the rabbit hole with it, they are now controlling you. They're going to be able to do exactly what they want, say what they want, and they know that you will believe them over your own self. The next thing is manipulation. I feel like gaslighting and manipulation, I've said this for years, they're basically cousins. They kind of do the same thing. They almost sometimes need each other in order for their plan to work. But manipulation is about guilt tripping, it is about playing games, it's about withholding affection, it's about doing something in order to, and usually the something is kind of the thing that they know will actually work on you. So if they know guilt tripping just doesn't work on you, then that's not the thing that they're going to do. If they know that just by shaming you that it's not going to work in order for you to change your views and conform and now give them what they want, then they're not going to do it. So a person who is an emotional abuser, a true emotional abuser, is always studying you. They're studying what you will tolerate, what works, what doesn't work. And in the beginning stages of dating, this is really like their kind of test period where they get to feel you out and see, okay, what can I do that really works with this person? How can I trigger them the most in order for them to either doubt themselves and have their self-esteem start being chipped away, or what can I do to get them to conform to me and to give me what I want, or to just not make me accountable for my actions whatsoever. And manipulation is a big aspect of emotional abuse. As we continue with this list, you're going to see that when someone does one aspect of emotional abuse, usually it was right before another aspect. So what I mean by that is the next thing that I'm going to talk about is isolation. Isolation means that someone is just isolating you from friends, family, or anyone that they feel has a positive influence over you. So this is the person that they know that you're starting to kind of go down this rabbit hole with them, and they know that they can see the abuser clearly. They can see the manipulation, they can see the gaslighting, they can see how this person is not treating you the way that you should be treated. And this is the person that's going to help you, the victim, to kind of like overcome this situation. Now, the emotional abuser knows exactly who these people are. These are the people that love and care about you and want the best for you. This person, the abuser, doesn't want any of those things. They just want what they want, and they want to be able to control you. So what they want to do is to get you away from those people or those things that are going to make you feel like you're good enough. They want you to move so far away from anything that could possibly make you increase your self-esteem, trust your inner guidance that's going to be able to see right through all of these games and right through all of this abuse. And if they can do that long enough, then they'll win because they're going to be able to control you. So isolation is all about getting you away from these people. How do you get someone away from the people who love and care about them the most and want the best for them and are always being their cheerleader? Well, the way that you can do that is through things like gaslighting and chipping away at someone's self-esteem. So if you begin to trust me more than you trust your own self, then I become your lifeline. I become the person that you need to be around because I have your best interest at heart more than your friends and family. In order to do that, I have to be able to control you, control your self-esteem, and manipulate you. Now, in order to really manipulate anyone and have that level of control over them, that they're willing to even go away from family and friends and people that really love and care about them, I have to be also dealing with someone as the abuser. I have to be dealing with a victim who has wounds, who has abandonment issues, who already, regardless of what I ever did to them, already didn't feel good about themselves, already didn't have a really strong sense of self. I have to be dealing with a person that has to be a little codependent. They have to still really want love and validation and all of those things. They want the fairy tale relationship. They want the woman that comes in and just saves them, or Prince Charming, because they're still dealing with all of those wounds from their childhood that they never healed. And that's why healing is so important, because when you heal, you realize, wow, I've been operating from such a lack place. I haven't been healthy myself, and I've been looking for the wrong things in relationships, and I haven't been able to even see the red flags. How many times have we gone through a breakup or a divorce or any kind of a situation like that where we had to end a relationship, and then we look back and we're like, why didn't I see any of those red flags? They were so incredibly obvious. The reason why you didn't see them is because you were wounded and you were operating from that wound. The next aspect of emotional abuse is just control. Now, what I mean by control, because obviously all of these different tactics are aspects of control that they're trying to seek over their victim. But control is really about what you wear, what you do, what job you have, who you hang out with, just every aspect of your life. They are essentially the puppet master and you are the puppet. They're controlling where you go. They're controlling how you spend your time. They're controlling who you hang out with and what you do every single day, hobbies, like every aspect of your life, they're controlling and influencing in a negative way. They're getting you further away from just who you innately know that you are, who you know you are, your intuition, like what makes you you. They are slowly getting you away from that so they can control all aspects of your life. No matter who the person is, in terms of the victim, no matter who the victim is, there comes a point where every victim will have some sort of a breakdown or meltdown. Now, does this mean that they're going to leave the relationship? No, but it does mean that they become so depressed, so anxious, so having panic attacks, so don't know who they are. They are all over the place and are completely miserable because they have gotten away from their true sense of self. The next thing is humiliation. Humiliation is probably something that a lot of people can do, whether they're a true emotional abuser, whether they're someone who's narcissistic or a psychopath or a sociopath, but humiliation is really about just mocking who a person is. They're making fun of their appearance, their intelligence, just what makes them who they are. They might share some personal story that you confided in them with other people, and they might kind of make fun of you for it behind your back, may not necessarily be in front of your face. This is really just about them trying to embarrass you, whether it's publicly or maybe even in private. There's two aspects to humiliation that are involved. First off, you're dealing with someone who's completely insecure. Because a lot of the times when someone is threatened by a certain aspect of who you are, it's because they lack that within their own self. And a lot of times, unfortunately, the victim can't see that. So they can't see that you're just basically dealing with someone who's incredibly insecure and isn't a real happy person inside. So because the victim has those wounds, has those insecurities themselves, they can't see that, because only a healthy person will really be able to see that amount of insecurity coming from that emotional abuser. The other aspect is that this person is basically doing all of these things, trying to humiliate you, make you feel bad about yourself. And why is that? Because they want you to feel bad about who you are, and the only way to do that is to mock it, is to humiliate you, is trying to make you feel bad for why you are the way you are, who you are, what you like, what you don't like, how you want to wear your clothes, etc. It's because they are dealing with something uncomfortable within their own self, and they have absolutely no idea. So an emotional abuser is not going to sit there and say, wow, I guess I'm really insecure, or why am I so controlling that I'm trying to control the way this person lives their life, or why am I making fun of who this person is? What is going on inside of me that makes me even want to be that kind of a person? You're not really dealing with someone who has that level of self-reflection or even the capability to even go there. Invalidation is the next one. This is incredibly huge. This is probably one of the most common aspects of emotional abuse. So the abuser is going to invalidate the victim's feelings, their experiences, their perspective on things. The point of this is to just make this person feel unheard. The abuser in that moment is not able to give the victim the number one thing that we all need, which is empathy. And empathy allows us to actually connect to each other because we're understanding each other's experiences from that person's perspective and not our own perspective. Only an extremely healthy person can actually validate another human being. Most people come from their own ego, their own insecurities, and they don't like when someone is feeling something, whether it's happiness or sadness. It just makes them feel uncomfortable because it either is going to shed light on themselves and what they don't have, or it's going to make them want to control that person even more because they feel uncomfortable that that person's uncomfortable. Maybe this person is just kind of minimizing your experiences and how you feel. Maybe this person is just straight denying how you feel whatsoever. They do not want to engage on how you feel and what you think. Remember, this is done for two reasons. One, the person feels uncomfortable by what you're feeling. So if it's something that is negative, for example, if you look at a parent and a child, a lot of the times parents will invalidate a child's experience because they're uncomfortable that the child is not feeling content or happy. If the child is sad, or maybe they got hurt because they scraped their knee, the first thing out of the parent's mouth is, no, you're okay. No, you're okay is completely invalidating because the child actually isn't okay. Whether you agree or not, it is not about what you think, it is about how the child actually feels. There might be a little bit of gaslighting even mixed in with invalidation. They say things like, you're imagining that actually never happened, which is both gaslighting and invalidating. The next aspect of emotional abuse is threats and intimidation. And this is kind of like where we start getting to the last resort, right? So I've tried to gaslight you, I've tried to manipulate you, I might have given you some verbal abuse, and nothing's really changing. So now I'm gonna up the ante here, and I'm gonna take it to the next level. Now we're talking about going from emotional abuse to maybe sexual or physical abuse. We're either talking about straight violence, or we could also be talking about abandonment. The point of threatening and intimidating is to put a lot of fear on the victim, where then they'll change their ways and then they'll be able to be controlled that way. So if you were not able to be controlled in all the other ways that the abuser was trying, they might resort to this, where they basically just ghost you, where they basically cheat on you and leave, and then they come back. The victim starts to live in a world where they don't know what's going to happen next. And this becomes very unsettling. This is also where the victim will struggle with PTSD, because you're walking on eggshells and you're in this completely unhealthy relationship and dynamic where nothing is steady, everything is just all over the place. You begin to feel worried when you come home. You don't know what this person's going to do next. Are they going to leave? Are they going to come home drunk? Have they been doing drugs? Like, they're just all over the place. And what they do in terms of the cheating or the drugs or the drinking, and what they're doing to kind of like self-medicate and possibly even soothe themselves, that is not the threats and the intimidation. Where the threats and intimidation come into play is when they do those things, then how do they behave? Emotional withholding is the next one. Usually this comes as a form of punishment. This is where the abuser will withhold things like affection or attention. They may not want to help you because you didn't give them what they wanted. Again, this is a form of a little bit of manipulation as well, but it's all about basically punishment for you not giving me what I needed. Because you didn't give me what I needed, I'm going to throw a tantrum, and these are the things that I'm going to do. This, of course, leaves the victim feeling completely unworthy, completely unloved, invalidated. They feel like they're just not enough in general. And as you can see, over time, if this happens, like, think about this. Think about all these things that we've talked about so far. If all of these things are happening in your relationship for years and years, you are going to have a low sense of self. You're going to have low self-esteem because you are in an environment that's completely unhealthy. Now, if you're a person that says, okay, I have to be in this environment for whatever the reasons are, even though I don't think there's any reason to be in this kind of environment, but let's just play the game, and I'm able to detach from this person. First off, you're human, and there's only so much detaching that you can possibly do because you're still being confronted with this type of abuse. That's why they say, especially with narcissistic abuse, that, and look, a narcissist is just a person that is emotionally abusive. But even with a narcissistic relationship, the number one rule is to go no contact. And why is that? Because you need to remove yourself from any relationship that is not healthy, that is not helping you to rebuild that self-esteem and that sense of self. That's why it's very important to just get out of these relationships altogether so you can be your healthiest. Constant criticism is kind of like what we touched on before. There's a little bit of humiliation in that. There's a little bit of control in that. There could be some verbal abuse in that. It's just about nitpicking. It's about picking at someone's appearance, about what they like, about what they don't like, about who they are, about what they do, about how they spend their time, just who they are in general. It's about me wanting to control all aspects of your life. And if I nitpick at you and you take the bait, then eventually you're going to conform because you're going to start having low sense of self or self-esteem. Now remember, all of these things, they cannot work without your permission. I think blaming the victim for why the abuser does what he or she does, first off, it's the next aspect of emotional abuse, but this is something that is very common when anyone, whether they're an emotional abuser or they're just a little uncomfortable with what it is that they did. Maybe they don't want to own something that they did. Maybe they don't want to apologize. Maybe they don't want to take accountability or responsibility for it. When that happens, this person is not able to actually own what they did and do the proper things in order to fix and overcome that and get better. Instead, what is just the easy default thing is to blame you for why I did what I did. Now, if you are a healthy person, that's not gonna work. It's not gonna work at all. But if you are semi-healthy, semi-completely not healthy, and still really wounded, you're going to be reactive. You're going to get very upset when this person even tries to blame you at all, and you're going to start getting very reactive, which to some extent is a normal response based on what it is that you're seeing. You're seeing a person who is not owning something. So in some way, this is the attempt of gaslighting. Can I actually gaslight you and make you doubt your own reality? But if you are not someone who can be gaslit and you challenge this person, you have to make sure that you do not become reactive to what this person does and how they're denying or trying to blame you for what it is that they did. It is so very important to learn how to hold on to yourself when you are dealing with someone who is emotionally abusive. It is very important to be as healthy as you could possibly be, learn all these aspects of, not necessarily, we don't even have to say emotional abuse, even though it is emotional abuse, just unhealthy dynamics between two people. So learning how to hold on to yourself is to recognize when a person is doing any of these things and not be reactive to it. not take it personally as much as you possibly can, not have it make you have doubt in your own self or get you away from your own intuition that knows exactly what's going on. When you really start listening to that inner guidance, you're able to see, oh, you're uncomfortable and that's why you're doing what you're doing. Oh, you're trying to control me and I understand that and it's not going to work. First off, you won't even find people attractive that you're dating or in relationships with that do these things. Now, the reason why this video was so incredibly important is because when you're going through a breakup, it's important to be able to self-reflect on not just your own actions, but your ex-partner, their actions. What are the things that they did that triggered you the most? Were they abusive? What was unhealthy between the two of you in terms of your dynamic? And this will help you to not only learn about that, because here's the thing, if you're going through this, learn the lessons. Like, all of this is meant to teach you something to get you ready for the actual next person. If you're dealing with someone who might be emotional abusive or you think was narcissistic, then chances are you know exactly what it is that they were doing throughout the course of your relationship. You probably weren't able to see it very clearly in the beginning stages, but at least now you can stop and pause, self-reflect, watch this video, and start checking the boxes of like, oh, look, this is why they were doing what they were doing. They were trying to control me. They were trying to get a reaction out of me. They were trying to chip away at my self-esteem, because basically all abuse has to do is control. How can I chip away at who you are so I can control you long enough? Control you that I can just do whatever I want and you'll just come back. Control you in the aspects of who you are and change you and conform you into who I want you to be. And all of this has to do with how wounded you are. That's why everything that I do will always start with healing, because everything that's going on inside of you that even allowed you to be in this relationship, that was already there prior to you getting into this relationship. So we cannot blame our ex-partners for doing what they did to us. We have to take responsibility for who we were at that time. And that doesn't mean blaming or feeling bad about ourselves. It's just about understanding that, okay, I'm going to be a mature adult in this situation and understand that regardless of what he did or she did, I took part in this relationship, and what were the things that were going on inside of me that made me conform, made me be controlled, made me feel like who I wasn't good enough. This is about working on yourself during this time. So I hope this video educated you, and we will continue with all of these lessons in this breakup recovery series. So don't forget to subscribe, like I mentioned before, and click on the notification bell. That way you can be informed the next time we upload a new video. Take care, guys.